wait a minute. The words. Right. Say the words. Klaatu, Barata, necktie, nectar, nickel.
Noodle. It's an N-word. It's definitely an N-word.
It was definitely an N-word. Klaatu, Barata,
You never said anything about an android being on board. Why not?
It never occurred to me. It's just common practice. We always have a synthetic on board.
I prefer the term artificial person myself.
Right.
Is there a problem?
I'm sorry. I don't know why I didn't even... Ripley's last trip out, the artificial person malfunctioned.
Malfunctioned?
There were problems, and a few deaths were involved.
I'm shocked. Was it an older model?
Yeah, the Hyperdyne system's 128.2.
Well, that explains it, and the A2s always were a bit twitchy. That could never happen now with our behavioral inhibitors. It is impossible for me to harm or by mission of action allow to be harmed a human being. You sure you don't want some?
Just stay away from me, Bishop. You got that straight?
All right, listen. The Terminator's an infiltration unit. Part man, part machine. Underneath, it's a hyperalloy combat chassis. Microprocessor controlled, fully armored, very tough. But outside, it's living human tissue. Flesh, skin, hair, blood, grown for the cyborgs.
Look, Reese, I don't know what you want
Pay
from me.
attention! The 600 series had rubber skin. We spotted them easy. But these are new. They look human. Sweat, bad breath, everything. Very hard to spot.
Pardon. Bonsoir. Le monsieur attire une réservation?
I'm sorry, I don't speak.
But this is a French restaurant, no?
Oui?
Name, please?
Parker, Peter.
Here we are. Table for two. Becker.
Parker.
That is what I said. Becker.
I'd like to rent one of your bungalows, sir.
Huh?
I'd like to rent one of your bungalows.
Oh.
The key.
You were here once before, wasn't you? Lots of years back.
Yes, I get through here about once every 50 years. Make me a reservation.
I want to introduce you to a personal friend of mine. This is an M41A pulse rifle, 10 millimeter, with an over and under 30 millimeter pump action grenade launcher. Feel the weight. When the counter reads 0 here,
I press this up?
That's right. All right, get another one in quick. Slap it in hard.
Right.
And you're ready to rock and roll.
What's this?
That's a grenade launcher. I don't think you want to mess with that.
You started this. Show me everything. I can handle myself.
Yeah, I noticed.
Hi, everyone. Welcome once again to Geekfest Rants. My name is Carlos Perone, and today we are continuing with our cult actor special that we started last week. Joining me again, I have Steve Abona, and we are going to explore a couple of new actors. Last time we did Michael Ironside and Bill Paxton, two of our favorites, and today we are going to conclude with Bruce Campbell, Lance Henriksen, and Michael Biehn. Let's pick it up where we left off last week. Well, let's move on to probably your favorite cult actor, Bruce Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
What can you possibly say about Bruce? Have you even noticed him before Evil Dead?
Well, there was nothing to notice before Evil Dead. I mean, what was he, 10 years old before Evil Dead? I mean, he was a college guy doing Evil Dead. And, he's the guy. He's the king of the bees. And everybody just loves him. They, those of us, you, myself, and our colleague Steve, we just worship at the altar of Bruce.
Now, we discovered him, obviously not at the pace of his career, but almost a little bit in reverse. In other words, Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2. By the time Evil Dead 2, were you already into him?
Evil Dead 2...
That was 87.
It was 87. I was into Evil Dead 2 the year it came out. I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on home video. And I, was nuts about it. And so that by the time Army of Darkness came out, I was drooling for that to come out.
So that's 92.
93, actually. And the first one is my least favorite of the three, but I saw it. I didn't like it. Then I saw Evil Dead 2 and I loved it. And then I kind of reappraised Evil Dead, and, I definitely appreciate it. I do, like it very much, but it's not Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness for me. But he is just, I don't know what else you could say about the guy that we have. It hasn't already been said.
Well, here's a guy who's definitely a workhorse, and he's not shy of working in television, because after Army of Darkness, he started working on The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr.
County. Yeah, and I mean, his association with Sam Raimi has just made his career. It wasn't until much later in his career where he sort of branched away from the Raimi, Rob Tappert, Ivan Raimi, because he got roles in like the syndicated show called Jack of All Trades that he did. And
well, was that a spin-off from Xena, Warrior Princess?
it was the same world, I guess.
Okay. But he also had, in between, while he's doing these shows, he was able to appear in Escape from L.A. Again, not a great film, but it's something that's like, oh, look who's here.
Yeah, but we're talking about like little 5-minute jobs, like Congo and all this other crap that he did.
Right. Plus the times he returns to the Spider-Man films with Raimi, they're also very small cameos, but they're Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, he does have a slight role in them.
Yeah, and they're all memorable. And he's always playing a different character, which is cool.
Now, what can you tell me about Bubba Ho-Tep?
Oh, Bubba Ho-Tep is one of the greatest movies ever made. And it's directed by Don Coscarelli, who is a director whose movies generally I despise. He makes the Phantasm movies, which are of
Which
all
they're making another one.
Yeah, there's another one coming out, and they're all pretty shitty as far as I'm concerned, and I don't care if you have to bleep out my language. I mean, they're bad movies, but he did this movie in, I want to say, 2002. He puts Bruce Campbell together with Ozzie Davis, of all people, and
who would do that? Who would not do that?
I don't know who, and I just thought it was genius. It's my favorite non-Raimi Bruce Campbell role. And I know the movie has its detractors, but in all honesty, it's you guys in our little circle of friends who despise and hate the movie as much as you do. Because I know plenty of people on the outside of our group who think the movie is hilarious, and that Campbell is hilarious.
Love it or hate it, especially hated, it does provide for great conversation.
Yeah. And I would have to say that, aside from his Evil Dead stuff, that this was probably his most popular cult film. And people have been asking for a sequel for a long time. And it's finally they abandoned it. I mean, Ozzie Davis has passed away. But for a long time, Campbell was championing a sequel. But it doesn't look like it's ever going to happen. But yeah, I mean, that's a movie that, it's up there for me in terms of my Bruce stuff.
Well, not shy of returning to television, he did a pretty long stint also, maybe 5-6 years, on Burn Notice.
Yeah, no, that's a very popular USA series. Unfortunately, I never watched it. I might, the show's over now, and I may give it a shot at some point, but especially because he's on it.
Talk about a different type of role, a completely non-genre role. Not a serious role. He's kind of a little bit of comic relief. He's a light character.
Yeah.
But that's a long time to work on a TV show.
Yeah, and it's probably his most mainstream success.
Definitely. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, the work on Burn Notice, probably his most mainstream success. Bruce is still like number one on the convention circuit, but I think that...
And he's amazing at conventions.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I've had the good fortune, you and I both have met him in person, and I met him sort of under professional circumstances, so I was lucky enough to be like in a room with him for over an hour while he was being interviewed and get my picture taken with him and goof around with him. It was probably, better than my wedding, in terms of great moments. You pay a real premium to get that experience with him at a convention.
You get your money's worth.
You do get your money's worth. And he's a great performer, and he knows what his fans want to hear, and he's funny and he's self-deprecating, and he's just great. I think the last thing that is worth mentioning about him is his 2-second cameo in the Evil Dead reboot.
Right, which was kept very quiet. They didn't want to, up to the last minute, he wouldn't say that he had a cameo in it or anything.
Right.
And it made the movie that is not bad. You know,
Yeah.
an homage, if you will. It made it 100 times better at the end, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, just seeing him. But, given that the movie was not that successful, I was kind of hoping, that there might be some sort of a future for Ash.
Well, that was supposed to revive the franchise. I don't know whatever happened to that.
I don't think that's happening. And
He did have a small role in the other Raimi film, the Oz the Great and Powerful, which like
Right.
he usually does, gives him a little role to play with.
Right.
But I haven't seen him in a while.
No, but again, he's a guy who, he's doing well for himself. Let's put it that way. And he knows where his bread is buttered. And I just think he's hilarious. He has a natural gift for comedy. And, what else can you say about the guy?
No kidding. All right, well, let me hit you up with another one. Lance Henriksen.
He's, again, right out of the school of Cameron.
It's the Cameron
Mafia.
Mafia.
He's, again, someone who is a certain type, physical type.
It's his face. It's all in his face.
It's and the voice.
Oh yeah.
And I think he's that gravelly voice. And I think he's a terrific actor.
He's a character. He's definitely a character.
He's a character, and I think Cameron has used him brilliantly.
Now, similar to Paxton, I would say, not until I noticed him on a movie that I love did I then look backwards and say, wait a minute, this guy was in here, and this guy, because he's an older guy, and he's been in a ton of very popular, older, 70s type of films, like, for example, Dog Day Afternoon. My God, this is Pacino.
Yeah.
He was in there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a guy, and these are guys who've always worked.
Yep. 77, he worked with Spielberg on Close Encounters.
Yeah,
he's one of the security guys waiting for the ship to arrive.
Yeah, but blinking,
very
you'll
small,
miss it. Yeah,
very small role. He also was on The Omen 2, Damien, The Omen 2 on the sequel. Now, how do we find our way to Cameron? Well, he, in 81, did a horrendous film called Piranha Part 2, The Spawning, which is the sequel to the Piranha film, which, if you even remember that film. But this is the movie that Cameron apparently was hired to do out, I think, in Italy or something, and he got completely sick, and he was fired from the film as director. But he remained friends with Henriksen,
right?
And later on used him on some of his films. But before that, again, he was in The Right Stuff. It's like, holy crap. He was in Jagged Edge with Jeff Bridges. It's like, it's amazing, like the resume this guy had even before he kind of exploded with 1986 and Aliens. Again, it's the James Cameron Mafia.
Right, but also he was in Terminator, and correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he initially considered to play the Terminator?
You are absolutely right. He was auditioning for the role of the Terminator.
Yeah.
And, he wasn't, I guess marketable enough like a Schwarzenegger, and they ended up giving him a smaller role as one of the police chief's lieutenants in the...
I mean, a small but memorable role.
Oh,
I mean, he's definitely...
He was a slightly comedic role.
Yeah,
he was like he was not the straight man.
Right, yeah, him and Paul Winfield made a great little team, great little comedy act in Terminator, and, I mean, that's a much more recognizable role than Paxton had in Terminator, and he...
Yes,
but
definitely.
It's Aliens that gives him the role of a
Aliens
lifetime.
was like, holy crap, look at this guy. What's he play? How do you outdo Ash in Alien?
And he did.
He completely did him differently and creepier and weirder. And again, they flip it on you.
Well, that was the beauty. I mean, what I love about Cameron is the way he flips, like the way you think in Terminator 2, that Arnold's a hero.
Whatever you're expecting, he'll do the opposite.
Yeah.
And that's what they did with his character, Bishop. In Aliens.
Mm-hmm. And I think he was great.
Now, as we said before, just like Bill Paxton, from Aliens, that whole crew jumped on Near Dark, the other movie that I said I absolutely love.
And also, I mean, we're not talking about her, but it's worth mentioning that Jeanette Goldstein from Aliens also is in Near Dark.
The whole crew jumped, and she's another one of these actresses that shows up on just about everything James Cameron does.
Right.
Now, after Near Dark, it's interesting. He did Pumpkinhead, which is a bad kind of horror film, but what's important about it is that it was directed by Sam Winston.
Oh, okay.
That's their Cameron connection, their effects.
Right. I mean, I'm not a fan of the film, but it has a cult following.
Yes, it does.
It sort of adds to his horror street cred.
Exactly. Now, as we mentioned before, this guy had a period where he did very high-profile movies. After, I would say, Aliens, it kind of started going somewhat downhill as far as how important or how big these films were.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny Handsome, which was a very forgettable Mickey Rourke film.
Mm-hmm.
Alien 3.
Yeah! He plays Bishop too. Now here, the Alien 3, they do a little bait and switch on you because he's supposed to be
The
creator
the
of the
scientist
Bishop android.
that Bishop is molded after, I guess.
Right, but he turns out to be yet another
jerk.
android.
Yeah.
And he has a very small but pivotal role at the end of the film.
Yeah. Well, he was also in John Woo's first American film,
Hard Target,
which I yet to see that film.
Oh wow! I mean, there's a lot of crap, Van Damme crap, and there's also a lot of.
But this is good crap.
It's good crap. As a matter of fact,
I'm going to put it on my queue.
As a matter of fact, Henriksen steals the movie. He's a great villain.
Really?
Cool. Oh yeah. I mean, he plays a really, really great. I mean, let's put it this way: it's a cut above the usual Van Damme fare.
Wow.
And he really has spoken about how much he enjoyed working with John Woo and how John Woo got him to do things that no director would get him to do in terms of like dangerous stunt type work.
Wow.
And it's worth
I'm going to definitely, like I said, put it on my queue. Now, speaking of Sam Raimi earlier on, The Quick and the Dead.
Yeah.
He played one of the gunfighters.
Yeah, and that's another film that's populated with these great character actors that we love. It's a Raimi film, but you also have Lance Henriksen. You have Keith David Keith in that one, and some of the other guys. It's a really, really good ensemble.
It's a genre group.
Genre Western.
Yeah. Now, just like some of these other actors, like we said before, he dipped into television and with a show called Millennium, which was, I think, a spinoff of The X-Files.
X-Files, yeah.
Yeah, so he did I think about maybe 2-3 years in Millennium, which wasn't a very successful show, but you got to see him, on a weekly basis in a creepy, supernaturally type of show.
Yeah.
Like we said before, he dips back into television, he's back into voiceovers. AVP, Alien versus Predator, once again dipping into the alien pool.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. If you think Alien 3 is crap, I mean, that was crap.
Yeah, those get progressively worse.
Yeah,
except,
I
would say except for the last Predators film I really enjoyed.
Oh yeah, the last Predators film was good, but the AVP movies are terrible.
The AVP ones, yeah, the combos are not that good.
No.
Now, as little as maybe 1 or 2 years ago, he was also doing the voiceover for Tron Uprising, that Disney DX Tron spin-off show. And again, it's his voice, that gravelly voice. You cannot mistake it for anywhere else. And the last thing that I actually saw him on was on an episode of Hannibal. He played the crazy serial killer of the week.
Yeah.
Which was, again, and he's looking old. He looks really old.
Oh, he's in his 70s.
Yeah, I read his biography. It's really good. He had a very difficult, tough, young life.
Mm-hmm.
He was like traveling the rails like a hobo.
It's all in his face.
Yeah, it's all there.
Yeah.
And, it's nice when you see him coming back, every now and then showing up, and it's him. It's him.
Yeah, and he's one of the most fan-friendly of all these actors that we're talking about. He's a guy you'd like to meet.
I'm sure he's got more stories than you can listen.
Yeah.
All right, well, our last cult actor, which we kind of hinted at earlier on, is another part of the James Cameron Mafia, and this is Michael Biehn.
Yeah.
Just like these other guys. Never noticed him ever until Terminator. Terminator, he was pretty much a lead character. He's a lead actor in this movie, more or less.
Right.
But before Terminator, the reason he got that job was because he did a couple of other films. One of them called The Fan from 1981 about an obsessive stalker type of guy who was, I think was it Lauren Bacall or something like that? I forget.
Yeah, Lauren Bacall.
And he was also in The Lords of Discipline with Bill Paxton.
Oh, okay.
So he has that connection as far as Bill Paxton goes. But then once you hit Terminator, forget it. That was that opened it all up for him. Unfortunately for this actor, he never had. I mean, he had genre hits, but he never was able to branch out of the genre side.
No, and I think he's the first one to tell you that he's made some bad career moves. I mentioned before that he turned down Near Dark. I think he's turned down some other high-profile films.
Right. And not that Near Dark would have gotten anything.
No, not that Near Dark would have helped him, but it would have just, reunited him with the Aliens people.
Well, he stuck with Cameron at least, so he was able to continue with him. He did Aliens, again, another kind of leadish kind of role, similar to Terminator, but it kept him out in the, with everybody to see, and his fan base exploded with that.
Right. The thing is, with Aliens, he was not Cameron's first choice. The actor who played Hicks was James Remar, and he was fired. There's even a couple of stills of Remar in his gear shooting the movie. And you look it up. It's true.
I gotta look that up.
And Remar is he's an actor probably best known for being Dexter's father. but he's done a lot of other stuff, and he's been in a lot of shows. He was in Battlestar Galactica. He was.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Wow.
Yeah, and I mean he was the original Corporal Hicks, and he got fired, and then Cameron brought in Michael Biehn. Mr. Cameron, you should know this.
I'm gonna have my Cameron card revoked, I think.
Yeah, and so that's what I was alluding to before, is that Cameron had these actors all in his back pocket, and he knew that they could deliver a performance. Now, what surprises me is after Terminator that he wasn't his first choice, but he probably was looking for a sort of more hard-bitten, nastier character, and that's Remar.
Plus, Remar is probably older also.
Well, yeah, he's older, but he also has that. I think he would have made a grungier Marine than Biehn. But yeah, so he came in, and I think he was excellent in the movie, and I think he had a great rapport with Sigourney Weaver, and there was this sort of a hint of possible like a romantic tension between them.
In the deleted scenes, there's a couple of stuff of them kind of flirting with each other, type of stuff.
I mean, that movie surprises me that, he didn't really explode from there because, again, he really just, his next big one was The Abyss.
Well, even before The Abyss, he was in the Seventh Sign, which was supposed to be an interesting horror thriller with Demi Moore, I think. Yeah. And it got nowhere.
It sucked.
It got nowhere. But with like you said before, The Abyss, talk about redoing a character again, almost. That I remember had that feel. The Abyss wasn't that great of a film. It was a spectacle of another Cameron monstrosity, but it didn't pack the punch. And his character, in a way, you could say it's a typical Cameron thing. You do the opposite. All of a sudden, you're used to him being this soldiery good guy. Now he became the soldiery bad guy.
Well, he's like the bad version of Hicks.
Exactly.
The crazy version of Hicks.
And he had the bends, and he was losing his mind.
I honestly, not to get too far off topic, I think The Abyss is a very underrated film. It's not Cameron's best, but I really think it's, especially the special edition.
With all the extra scenes of the finished footage.
Yeah, once it's fleshed out, I think it stands with his best work. I mean, it's not his best work, but I think it's an excellent film.
Right. Now, after The Abyss, some of the more notable things he's done on his own, and again, I keep repeating myself, these actors do a ton of work. It's just that the stuff we're pointing out right now is the stuff that people have seen more than, some TV movie or some straight-to-video or whatever. But he did Navy Seals. Again, back to the Charlie Sheen, Bill Paxton crew. Again, he's playing a soldier in an action film type of thing. Terminator 2, he was in it, but he was edited out.
And then put back in.
He was in a dream sequence, correct, and then he was re-edited back for the DVD or for the Laserdisc at the time, I remember.
And that's the end of his work with Cameron.
Yeah, that's the last time he worked with him, because, I guess he was just using him to do the same thing over and over again. There was just not much left to do with him.
Right.
He returned in Tombstone, which we mentioned earlier, some of these other guys, all in the same movie.
Yeah, and I think that's another memorable role for him.
But the next movie that he did was a pretty big hit, The Rock, with Sean Connery.
Yeah, I mean, but he's playing sort of the same Biehn character, and
Navy SEAL type of.
Yeah, and he's killed halfway into the movie,
just like he is in most of his films.
Yeah, so it's.
But it was a big film. That was the thing. He had a small part on a big film.
Right, and it's probably again the last of his really big stuff.
Yeah. After that, you might have seen him on The Magnificent Seven, the television version of the Western. I guess they saw him in Tombstone. They say, "Hey, that's a good cowboy. Let's do that." Then he disappeared for a very long time, and all of a sudden, the next time I saw him was on Grindhouse, Planet Terror.
Right.
He played the sheriff of this. I guess it was the zombie virus portion of the movie, which was like, oh wow, look, he's back. It's interesting, and he kind of looked like he hadn't worked in a while. He looked kind of hungry for work.
Well,
but it was entertaining.
Yeah, and these actors, these directors, who many of them are our age and grew up watching these guys, are now the guys who are giving them work because they love them as much as we do. And it's like, I'm going to call up Michael Biehn and put him in a movie. And they're going to do it.
We have this list of cult actors we love. And it's like, finally, you get to do something with them. And it's like, you either invite them to a children's birthday party or you make them appear in one of your movies.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you one thing. Michael Biehn surprised me because 2011, he did a movie called The Divide. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No.
Wow. This is a small non-studio picture, I think. Apocalyptic, atomic bombs go off and everybody hides in the basement of a building. And it's about how everybody kind of turns on each other. He played an excellent role. I would recommend watching it.
No, I'd check it out.
It's very surprising. Him going dark, but beyond dark. He goes really dark in this movie. It's a very disturbing movie.
He's sort of, obviously realizes that, he's not going to get, he was also in a horrendous syndicated TV show. I forget the title, but it was, one of those, treasure hunter or, something crappy that you'd see on like channel
but he's
11.
Been trying to reinvent himself.
Exactly, and he's been doing these low budget. He's directing a lot, and the thing that he got a lot of press for online was a film that he did in 2012, I think, called The Victim, and he directed it, and it's a real sort of throwback to like the 70s exploitation films.
Well, it's this whole grindhouse movement that he kind of is trying to kind of jump on because he kind of saw that there's some traction there.
Yeah, and he does a lot of conventions, and he promotes his movies at his conventions with his wife.
He raises funds for the films and then puts them together.
Yeah, and I think he shot Victim in like 12 days or something.
I think with his girlfriend, it was like the star of the film.
Yeah, and he
used
another actress, Danielle Harris, who's been in the Halloween films.
I remember hearing that name. You're right.
Yeah.
That movie. That's another one I got to watch. But I'm telling you, you have to watch The Divide.
I'll check it out.
And you have to watch Haywire.
Yeah, I'll check out both of those. I mean, again, you're talking about actors who I love, and I want to see more of. So,
exactly.
Obviously, you're always a little leery of the straight to video stuff, and that even they know that the stuff is crap.
And you also know that for every one of these films that we talk about right now, there's at least 10 to 20 more that are horrible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And these guys know it, but they have to pay the bills.
Right.
So, you have somebody like Cameron who makes a movie every 10 years. He didn't throw any of them in Avatar except for Sigourney Weaver. So, you can't count on these guys the way you used to.
Yeah, no kidding.
And they can do the conventions, and, it's very sort of ego boosting for them. I mean, people like, not just the people we're talking about, but like Linda Hamilton, and, these are people who just love
But it's not just an ego boost, it's a paycheck. They're getting some serious dough out of this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And these guys go all over the world signing autographs and taking pictures and, and promoting what they're doing.
Exactly. Well, this brings us to the end. I mean, we've only covered 5 actors. I hope in the future maybe we'll get to do another one. Maybe we can throw in some actresses too here or there.
Sure.
Because this is fun because, like I said before, there's so many of these movies that we completely forget about, and some of us don't even know about them. Like, you surprised me with a few. I got you in a couple.
Yeah.
So on behalf of Steve and myself, we would like to thank everybody for joining us today on this special episode, and we will see you here next time on Geekfest Rants. Bye-bye, everybody.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but 2 things right now. Jack and shit, and Jack left town.
It's true that you gunned down 4 men. 2 with my left hand, 2 with my right hand. You see, the truth is that I am just as good with either.
Look, Ripley, this is a multi-million-dollar installation, okay? He can't make that kind of decision. He's just a grunt. No offense.
None taken. Pharaoh, do you copy?
Standing by.
Prep for dust off. We're gonna need immediate evac.
Roger. On our way.
I say we take off, nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Name's Ash. Housewares.
Come get some.
Jesse, there's something I've been meaning to ask you.
Yeah, what might that be?
How old are you?
Let's put it this way. I fought for the South.
South.
We lost.
It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. And it absolutely will not stop. Ever. Until you are dead.
Not bad for a human.
Groovy. Oh, Bubba Ho-Tep is one of the greatest movies ever made.
Alien 3.
Yeah.